it's a political weapon. Trident is, I think in many ways, it's like the UK itself. It's so backward looking, and it sees the world as it once was and not the world that we currently live in. And I think that when it comes to this government, and many UK governments, it's almost a post-imperial power desperately trying to come to terms with a changing world and trying to find its place in that new world. And it's decided to, with this renewal of Trident and this increasing of the warheads, it's embarking on a desperate search for a better yesterday. So I think that what you're seeing is, we are sacrificing everything on this military and political ego trip that is more to do with status and defence, and disgracefully is being paid for on the backs of the poor.
And what do you both see the difference in policy being between Scotland and the UK at Westminster in terms of this issue? Brendan's covered a lot of ground there in terms of, how useful it is, etc. And we'll come on to talk about that. But where do you see the key difference between Scotland and Westminster on this?
In my opinion, Westminster used these weapons of mass destruction to retain their seat on the Security Council, the UN Security Council. Now, that is their purpose, I think. And they don't have at any time considered the impact that it has on Scotland or on, as Brenda says, the poor in our society. The amount of money that they spend on weapons of mass destruction that could build, for example, 50,000 affordable homes, 14 hospitals, that sort of thing. They don't even consider that. They just see it as their way of retaining the power they've had in the past and their status seat on the Security Council. And I think actually, because it's in Scotland, they don't really care about the lack of safety or the potential hazard should an accident occur.
And Brendan?
Yeah, I think the difference is that what we have in Scotland, we have a consensus, almost a settled consensus against nuclear weapons, whether it's Scottish Government, Scottish Parliament, the SNP, the Green Party, Scottish TUC, swathe of Scottish civic society, the Church of Scotland, the Roman Catholic Church of Scotland, many other.
And that's true of opinion polls as well. I think there was an opinion poll showing nearly 60% of the Scottish public were against nuclear weapons.
Yeah. And I think that voice of Civic Scotland says, we do not want these here. And it has always been thus. And there is a very different mindset about the possession and the stationing of nuclear weapons in Scotland than there seems to be elsewhere in the UK. But I think Scotland really does almost speak with one voice on this, saying that we do not want these weapons of mass destruction. And I say that as someone who lives in the Roseneath Peninsula, less than 5 miles from both Coolport and Faslane.
And I've mentioned Westminster a couple of times. Is this just the Tories that want to retain nuclear weapons?
Sadly, no.
Exactly.
There was a point that in the past when Labour were very anti-nuclear and determined to rid the world of nuclear weapons. That has long gone. I think they may still claim to be multilateral disarmament, but really they see nuclear weapons in the same way as the Tories do, as a retention of power. And they don't really understand the Scottish concept of the people being sovereign. I think in Scotland it's very clear that we, as the people of Scotland, are sovereign, and we determine what happens through our representatives. It's not dictated down to us. It's, if you like, dictated up the way. And that is very different from the concept of government in the South, sadly.
Well, you're just talking about Labour Party there. I think they're quoted as saying their support for Trident is unshakable and non-negotiable, Brendan.
Yeah, we've seen it before, and the problem the Labour Party have is that they have almost been dragged into, well, I say dragged as if it was unwilling to go there, but this idea about the power of the United Kingdom and the place of the United Kingdom in the world. The Labour Party are thrilled to that, and so therefore they've come to see it as almost a virility symbol for the UK. And I'm reminded of Tony Blair in his memoirs when he was talking about Trident renewal. He said, the expense is huge, the utility is non-existent in terms of military use, but, and I quote, he said, for us not to do it would be too big a downgrading of our status as a nation. And that's all you need to know.